But being perfect or being healed is not a state humans exist in. In no way, shape, or form has a ring ever stopped a man from leaving. Oh, thank you for informing me. Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Veronica, and today I want to talk about a breakup. It was the first time I was exposed to it today, and I want to go through it. And because I only watched like the first two, and I was like, oh, there's a whole thing, there's a whole journey here. I want to go through it with you because it seems very interesting. And not to make fun of someone or make light of someone's breakup, it sucks, it can be really hard. And I think for this person, it was worse than for a lot of us. It's just wild. So, let's get into it. Now, some of you might recognize this. It went viral last year. I think it sits at like 56 million views. So let's just experience it together because it's a ride.
Live in LA with your boyfriend, and everything's going amazing. Till he says, babe, I wanna move back to Texas to be closer to my dad. So you give up half of your career, quit your improv troupe, and have a goodbye party. Take off months of work, deplete your savings to pay for movers, and drive to Texas. So worth it for the love of your life that wants a future with you because he said so. So you spend a month waiting for your shit to arrive, and then another month moving in and building furniture and stuff, and you're so happy till he comes back from a family vacation, sits on your couch, which just arrived in the mail, and hands you a note that says we have nothing in common, we're incompatible. Oh no. How did I not notice this whole time? 3.5 years of happiness, we've been incompatible this whole time, and that we had nothing in common for 3.5 years. How did I not notice? Wow, what a surprise. Thank you for informing me that this whole time we had nothing in common. So you pack up your car with whatever you can fit in it, just getting your crying too hard, so we have to pack it for you, and then you drive to Florida to live with your mom.
Oof. It feels like making this video a little bit was like tongue-in-cheek for herself, kind of like a coping mechanism of like making fun of like, oh, thank you for informing me that we were not compatible for after 3.5 years. Because like 3.5 years is not an insignificant amount of time to be with someone. If it was like 6 months, 9 months, yeah, sure. But over 3 years? I like, okay, no. Also, a note? What? What kind of person does that? What kind of lack of spine do you have to hand someone a note where you say such things? Like, I get it. Talking to people can be very difficult. It can be very emotional, and you're not knowing how to deal with that. I understand that. It is something that we all struggle with, but we all have to suck it the fuck up sometimes, all right? We can't just like, here's a note, which doesn't even seem to be like from a notebook. It's just like, oh, I just grabbed the first thing off the back, like utility bill or something, and just here's the note. Now get the fuck out. Like, what is wrong with you? I mean, I don't know if it was like that way, just get the fuck out. I don't know. We'll see if we get more context to it. But either way, the lack of spine on someone to hand a note, because it's not a situation where you break up with someone over the phone or something because you actually are afraid for your life. In that regard, stay safe. But he was comfortable enough to go back to their home after a vacation that she was not with him on and hand her a note. So it doesn't appear to be like, it doesn't appear to be a fear for your own safety reasoning here. It just comes across as, oh, you're a coward. Because what the hell? After moving from LA to Texas, are you kidding? Upheaval, like what? She was at like a month packing, a month moving, a month unpacking. So like what, 3 months? And you didn't consider saying at any point in this really huge life change that go, you know what? No. When push comes to shove, like you're about to get married or you're about to move in together for the first time or you buy a house together or whatever, get a dog, have kids. When you're about to have a very significant life event, that's usually a pain point or a quit point. I've been working in the gaming industry for too long right now. I feel like it's getting in there. It is a pain point where people tend to break up because that is like, oh, now you're faced with whatever you're feeling like, right? If, or like your true feelings, you're not fully there, or you're actually like, I'm not, this is not my person, whatever it is. It usually around those bigger life moments, and hauling your ass from LA to Texas, buying a house there, that is, and waiting until after that is done, that for me, I'm getting ahead of myself, but it feels very much like, oh, you wanted help moving, so you waited until that was pretty much done before kicking her out. But that's what my initial from this video alone, that's where my mind went. So let's see where this goes, shall we?
Background, this makes sense, but in this day and age.
Oh, for the people who can't see it, never give up a career for a boyfriend. Don't mean a thing if you ain't got a ring.
I wanted to get married someday, but I didn't want to get married anytime soon. I didn't want to spend months and months planning this grand event and spending boatloads of money on it. I didn't have time for that shit, neither did he. He gave me 3 years in LA. He moved to LA to be with me. I never intended on staying in LA forever anyway. His time in LA was up. He was getting fed up. He wanted to go. I wasn't gonna put that off and be like, no, we have to get engaged because we were young. Plus, I wanted time to go live in Texas and assess if I truly was okay with having that be our shared future and not have it be in a major music city, which is what my preference would be. We were very committed to each other. We were making 5, 10, and 20-year plans. It was very much talked about. And he bought a house for us to live together. If it wasn't for me, he would have just gone back and lived on the family farm. I took that as the ultimate sign, yeah, he's really in this. I was wrong, but I don't see how I could have done that differently.
Okay, let's start from the questioning question. It doesn't mean a thing if you don't have a ring is wildly incorrect. Religious or not, married people up and leave each other all the time. Having a ring on your finger changes nothing. If someone's gonna leave, they're gonna leave. If someone's gonna cheat, they're gonna cheat. If someone's gonna die, they're gonna die. Okay, when I'm dealing with a lot of feelings and having awkwardness and trying to deal with that, I use humor as a true millennial. I understand that she's quite clearly in the US, and a lot of people who answer are from the US, and this perception that if it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend, it's not a real relationship is very weird. It's very invalidating to the experience that is discovering a relationship, having a relationship in many different stages. And where I'm from in Sweden, marrying someone or being together without marriage is no difference. We don't view marriage as this peak thing for a relationship. I think a lot of people through historical legacy do, but our society doesn't actually care. In Sweden, we have a term for this. It's called sambo, which directly translates to together living. And it is the term we use for people who are in a relationship that lives together, has a life together, but are not married. And so basically, I think the unofficial line, I guess, is that if you've lived together for more than 6 months, you're a sambo. Before then, you're trial period. There's actually part of our housing laws is that if I'm renting an apartment, a legit reason to rent out my apartment secondhand is is that we're trying out living together for 6 months. You can rent out an apartment like that for 6 months, maybe a year, depending on your apartment complex. So that's how common that is here. So the notion that you need a ring to make it real is like you need to change your perspective on that, because in no way, shape, or form has a ring ever stopped a man from leaving or do shitty things. There is no difference between before ring and after ring. It's just a person, it's just a relationship. So that notion, hard disagree. Check yourself. I had to rewatch it because I ended up rambling a bit. So yeah, she does say that he moved to LA for her, and she moved now to Texas to kind of feel out, is this both a relationship that she wants long term, but also I think she mainly meant like, hey, is Texas the place that I want to settle in? So he moved to LA for her. She's willing to do that for Texas for him in Texas, which I think is very balanced, is very fair. They have clearly been talking, and he has been agreeing to these long term goals and saying the right things, and that is just unfortunately very common. If one partner has all of these dreams or goals or, you know, go-getter mindset, it is unfortunately pretty common that the partner just says what they need to say in order to placate their partner. I've seen this happening with friends, I've seen this happen with my relatives, where they've been married for what, 10 years, and then it comes out that the husband was not at all on board with what they've been talking about for 10 years. It just turned out that he was just saying the things that he needed to say in order to make sure that she was happy. It's not uncommon, unfortunately. Not to cause any more uncertainty, but the bottom line is that you can only live your life, you can only focus on your own thing, and find people who are willing to be honest with you. If they're not honest with you, that is not a reflection on you, that is a reflection on them. Same thing if they do shit like this, that is a reflection on them, not on you. You can only trust yourself and hope for the best. Plan for the worst, hope for the best, and aim for somewhere in the middle. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. All right, I believe this one is a question being asked to the one we just watched. And for those who can't see this, it says, because when he said he'd moved to Texas, he was trying to break up. You were not meant to move with him.
Surprise! I'm not even going to talk about that one. I'll just let you figure it out. People are saying I need professional help because I still love him. But you can't just like turn your love off like a light switch. It'd be amazing if I could. Oh my God, I would love to. But it doesn't just go away when you want it to. There's this thing called unconditional love, and I have experienced it. And it makes me even more mad at him for denying that when he had someone who loved him unconditionally and still does. But I think it's pretty cool that I can love that hard. Obviously, I'm fucking furious. Like, you don't want to know. Like, just, I've never been through something where you're experiencing the extremes of so many different emotions all at once. Love, anger, desperation, heartbreak. These things can happen simultaneously. It's so hard to describe. Oh, and he is paying. Oh my God, he is paying for moving costs. Let the record be set straight. He is reimbursing me for the moving costs.
Good. I'm glad, because yikes. Yes, what she's going through is grief. She is grieving the loss of a relationship, and that doesn't happen on anyone's timeline. It's not linear. You have moments or days where you're feeling great, and other days when you're sad and you feel like you just want to lie on the floor crying. On other days you're just like, you're like, give me his face, I'm gonna you know. It happens, it ebbs and flows, and it happens, but you have to deal with that. And she says she does have help, and I think that's where we're going to be seeing the most success for her. There are some studies done on this whole, how long does it take to get over someone, like the emotional aspects of us as people. It leans into, like, if you get a crush on someone, how do you handle that? Like, how do you stop that from evolving? And basically, it means you need distance. You need time away from that, so you don't feed that crush or that feeling with their presence or the romanticization that of their person or the relationship that could be or has been. That there's a reason why we say time heals all wounds, because us as humans, us as people, we need distance and time in order to process things and get away from the thing that is inspiring that feeling. If I remember correctly, so take that with a grain of salt or a truckload of salt, it's about 3 months of distance that you need from the object of the feeling to be able to really get through that and move on. As far as I understand, this video is like, what, a week, maybe 2 after, maybe a month? It's still early, and especially if she hasn't been able to, you know, move out properly and move back into her own life, she is forced to engage with this person that is going to reenact or relive or re-engage those feelings. It is hard, you know? And this comment, it's just stupid. Commenter, hi. If you are trying to break up with a partner, you don't go, I want to move back to Texas, and then go through the moving process, buying a house, unpacking everything, and going, you know, didn't you get that I was breaking up with you? Like, I wanted you to stay in LA. No, you fucking stand up and you communicate that. Not in some implied way of like, she'll understand. No! Be clear, okay? This comment is fucking stupid. If he didn't want her to move with him, he should have said so. But I think it's a good, and like clearly he still wanted her to move with him. And then whatever happened on that vacation changed his mind based on what little information we have. But the next video is also from the same, she's wearing the same clothes. So let's just watch that one.
I wish that I had handed...
Oh, sorry. He handed you a note? Your life is going to be so much better without this guy.
That note right back to him and said, no, 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 no. This is not happening. Whatever you think this is isn't happening. I just moved across the country for you, literally a month ago. We committed to a future together. We very explicitly talked about this and committed to it. Now is not the time to give in to the doubts. You had time and you didn't, and therefore you owe me more than a fucking no. I moved for you. I live here now. This is our house, and we can talk about this, and maybe we'll still break up, but it's not gonna be like this. I really wish I had done that, both for me and for him, because we had so much love for each other and still do. Like, once I get over this, I want to look back fondly. How am I supposed to look back fondly on this? He just ruined 3.5 good, beautiful years by doing this. Something that's just so insane that millions of people on the internet are coming to my aid. Like, he's a good man. He's a good person. It's just so out of character for him, and it's just such a tragedy for us both. I just wish I had refused the note, said, we're gonna talk about this for a week. At the end of that week, maybe we'll still break up, but it will be less traumatic and psychologically damaging than whatever the hell you're doing to me right now. And at the end of this week, if we break up, maybe there'll be a chance that we can still have a respectful relationship at some point in the future. But I was too shocked to do that, so here we are. In Florida, living with mom.
I know I took a moment and scrolled through some comments, and I understand that people are reacting a little bit to the way she phrased things here. And I see where it's coming from, but I also see what it is she's trying to say, as in, or maybe I am projecting, but the words she's using makes me think that what she means isn't that she's not going to listen, like respect his, hey, I want to break up. Because I want to be very clear with this, you don't need a reason to break up with anyone. If you can break up with anyone for whatever reason. You don't need to defend it. You don't need to argue for it. So, full respect for that. With all that said, I should say, is that handing someone a goddamn note, I think that she deserves more than that. Giving someone a note with your words instead of sitting down and speaking them and having a conversation where you say, hey, I want to break up. Please respect that. Have the goddamn note, like, so that you have support, especially if you're someone like me who tends to forget what to say, like brain goes blank when you are in a emotional, very high intense emotional situation, like a conflict or school, like with exams and stuff. I always blanked in exams every time. My grades were very representative of that. which annoyed the shit out of my teachers because they were like, when we talk, why not paper? I'd like, you know? Sidebar. Very incredibly disrespectful of him how he handled it. And I think most people are supportive of her because of that. I see that she's like, okay, maybe we can have a conversation about where is this coming from? Is there any fears that are popping up that is causing this, that maybe I can make you feel more secure, whatever. But I also want to point out to people, she very clearly said, hey, and after that conversation, if we still break up, that's fine. So she's not saying, hey, let's not break up. I'm not accepting your breakup, you know? I'm just gonna like, I wanna break up. No. She's not saying that. It's more like, okay, how this is being handled. And I think that that's true. I think that's respectful. However, if she had proposed, hey, can we talk about this so we don't make a rushed decision? And he says no, then she should respect that. But she has the full right to extend that question or invitation, and he has the full right to reject it. So that's kind of what I got out from this, that she wished that the whole event had been handled better so that they wouldn't have such a negative experience or light that now is shining on their years together, so that they could look back on that with a more, it was 3 good years. It is what it is. And I think that's fair. She is still going through the grieving process, so popping up these things in your head and going through, what could I have said differently, and this is how I would handle it now, and I wish I said that. That's perfectly normal. She's still going through the grieving process. She just now also doing it in front of millions of people who very nosy people being people online, are getting involved, and she's still in that process, and she's sharing her thoughts and opinions on it while still being in it. So of course it's gonna feel dragged out. She's not gonna say it perfectly, and what she's saying in this video might not be accurate in a month because she's no longer feeling it. So I'm trying to give grace for the fact that she's still in it. Not very well worded in this case, but I choose to interpret it with some good faith interpretation and see this is what she mentioned, like, hey, maybe we can have more of a longer conversation so I just don't have a fucking note and the trauma that is, or like the damage that causes rather than trauma. So that's how I view this video.
Max knows about the video, and he's not happy. Since the breakup, I've reached out to him way too much. I've written letters, I've begged, I've cried, everything. I know I shouldn't talk to him, but he has either ignored me or barely responded. All this after blindside dumping me after saying that he wanted a future with me. So that's been incredibly triggering. The distress at the abandonment can be really all-consuming and unignorable until I get a response. And therefore I started blabbing to the internet because I was just boiling over, and also it was like a Hail Mary that maybe he'd see it. So now that he's actually responded and I know how he feels about it all, I'm like, okay, well, if you promise to talk to me at a later date, then okay, I can be quiet. But now that I'm in the no contact period, after which we did agree to talk again, the panic of not getting a response and not knowing is gone. Like, is it really worth it? How great is our next email conversation really gonna be that it's worth censoring myself? What am I gonna gain? What can I possibly gain from this man at this point? I still want answers. I don't know if he's ever gonna give them to me though.
As I said, she's going through it, right? It's something that gives me secondhand embarrassment when people say they do that, because it's just, for me, it is difficult to understand the feeling that would drive you to do that. And I have a little bit of a personal experience with this, which kind of fuels that feeling because I've been on the other end of that. So it's just like, ugh, don't do that. So my first boyfriend, I broke up with him after about 6 months. And he was like, yeah, whatever. He was clearly not actually into me. He was just like, yeah, you're a good placeholder, which great for my emotional well-being and confidence. Anyway, so I broke up with him, and then about 2 months later, he texted me going, hey, I kind of miss you. Okay. So my answer to him was, what do you want me to do with this? Haven't heard from him since. Now, I didn't use a note. I actually sat him down and say, hey, I don't think we work together. Let's break up. And of course he doesn't like your video because you're blasting his shitty ass behavior all over the internet. He's probably getting an earful from his parents or friends. Man, I hope he gets an earful from his parents because yikes. But yeah, don't do it. Like, respect their decision of saying like, hey, I don't want to be together. And like you say in the video, what answer are you looking for? What could he possibly say that would make you feel good or better about the situation you're in? Maybe an apology for how he handled it, as in like, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have just have left you with a note. That is like the only thing that he could say that would bring you value, because nothing he's gonna say is going to feel real to you or as big of a deal. Because usually people who break up over like for long periods of relationship, or wow, I did not phrase that correctly at all. Let's try again. People who break up long-term relationships, no matter like what we hear online, we read on Reddit, we hear on TikTok, we see like videos like this, it's usually not an explosive reason like cheating or abuse or something like that. It's usually just small trickle stuff, like many small things that builds up into whatever decision you make. No one answer is going to be, it's not going to feel to you as justifiable to break up for. And we're all looking for justifications because that we feel like that's going to help us deal with all of these things, but they're not, because these answers have, and the comfortability or moving on has to come from you. You can't put that on anyone else. You can't rely on anyone else to soothe you in that way. Unfortunately, it sucks. I hate feelings. Like, I'm terrible at feelings, but that's where we are. Now we're moving into some post-breakup updates. I just noticed my camera is all blurry. There we go. I think it's focusing on something over here and then it gets really blurry. Anyway, I shouldn't bring attention to that because now you can't unsee it. Hello. Like goes grainy. It works when it's better light. Anyway, we're back to the post breakup updates kind of things. And this is where I find it, I haven't watched these, so it's going to be very interesting to see where this is going, because 3 months is usually the time when statistically it gets a little bit easier.
3 months post breakup, and my brain is starting to finally feel like itself again. Oh my god, it's literally 3 months today. 3 months ago today, my face looked like it had been stung by a hive of bees. I was sitting on the couch, staring, crying, screaming. I always thought that I couldn't scream like the bloody murder scream. I could only do like a kind of thing, just like higher and louder. I don't want to stop. But no, I can scream. I'm a singer, I'm a vocalist, I make my living with my voice, but I was so delirious. It's like, I don't care what I do. I just took a pillow and was like, and it felt good. It felt like destroying something, like my vocal cords. And I hope that he heard it. That's where I was 3 months ago today. But I finally feel like, oh my god, 3 months ago, Jesus Christ. But I'm back. I'm functioning. I am showing up to work with 100% productivity. We talked this weekend over email, so I've calmed down a little bit. This might be a temporary lull, but I feel better. It does feel like it's been longer. The first month, every hour was a battle. I can't believe how much life I've lived in the past 3 months. So if you're going through it, just think about how when you were like in kindergarten, every week felt like it lasted a year. That's how trauma feels when it first happens. But it's gonna speed back up again. It will, I promise. Cheers.
So this is my point, right? She's feeling a bit better. All of that. It might be a lull, but it is a sign that she's moving forward. She's processing things, probably with the professional that you mentioned earlier. So yeah, I think I'm very glad for that. I'm very happy for that. And I relate so hard to, you mention something and then you get a flash and like, oh my God, not that thing. The awkward thing you did 15 years ago still pops up. Of course it's gonna happen with this shit too. Something I also wanted to mention regarding the previous video, I think it was, where she was talking about wanting to look back on those 3.5 years in a more positive light. Something that we do. is rewrite our history. You live your life, you have your partner, you're having a great time, woohoo, feeling love and all of that stuff. When you break up, that hurt is then transferred back onto those years that you had together, so that the minor annoyance that you were like, yeah, it's annoyance, move on, when it happened now seems like a huge issue. The good times now seems like mediocre kind of thing. Like, oh my god, why did I stay with them? We rewrite our history based on our current feelings. And it's something that I personally worked really hard with, to look back on relationships I've had that I have had to let go of for various different reasons, and stopping myself from taking the feelings, the negativity, and the hurt that I have in the moment and reflecting that back on the history of that relationship, whether that is familial, platonic, work, whatever, doesn't matter. And I think that is very important. And I think that's kind of what she's looking at. She wants to be able to look back on those 3.5 years in a more positive way, but that doesn't really come from getting him to answer questions or handling a breakup correctly. It is coming from within, that you have to train yourself to go like, you know what, I'm feeling shit right now. I'm really angry with him. I'm pissed at how this went down, but I had 3 years with this person and the good times were really good and I still enjoy that and I still love that. But now I need to move on. Like, let the anger be the anger where it is relevant. So 3 months, very happy that she's doing better, and I hope that it progresses. Let's see 4 months.
And it's been a month. I don't know if I'm just like getting used to feeling okay again, so I'm like forgetting how far I've come, but I think healing stalled a bit. Month 3 was a lot more transformative. The big win from this month is now I no longer feel like I am fighting every second that I don't contact him. I've sent this man about 10 closure letters, but I actually sent him my actual closure letter like 2 weeks ago. At this point, I have nothing left to say. Every time I even try to journal about it, I'm like, I've said it all. I've naturally come to a place where I feel like I can now be no contact. The physical depression is gone, but it comes right back whenever I have to do work that I don't want to do. I'm all of a sudden like, I need to go take a nap. I'm so sad. This is so horrible. I want to start dating again. I'm ready. Let's go. Get me out of this. Move on with my life. I still feel like shit, but I'm gonna feel like shit until I start dating again. That's just who I am. That's just who I am. Immediately after the breakup, I had downloaded Hinge like the first week, and I went on a couple dates that were really nice. But I was like, oh wait, I actually don't want to date right now. And I think that was a good sign that I may be approaching ready to date, because I'm not doing it as like a rebound. To anyone going through it right now, I'm not here to give you like empty promises that it all gets better. No, it still fucking sucks. It's not okay. It does not feel good. It does feel better, but you're not alone. Cheers.
All right. So moving forward, I can't personally relate to the whole getting back into dating so quickly or at all. I never really did the dating thing a lot. Like, my partner that I've been with for like almost a decade is my second partner. So I'm not sure dating has been a big part of my life in that regard, but either way, you're at 4 months and you're still getting waves of depression and all of that stuff, and you only like, when she said I've sent like 10 or whatever and like letters or whatever, and then she said like 2 weeks ago I actually sent the final one, does she mean that she actually sent all of them, or that she was just writing them and then actually sent the last one? Either way, all of this is not something that I personally would look at a you are back in the groove of things, because something that you can do in therapy is to write a letter to someone that has hurt you. And the first time you write it, you pour out all your feelings and the hurt and the anger and the happiness. And then you write it again. And essentially, what you write the second one is for yourself. You're still addressing it to the person who hurt you, but that is where you end up saying the things that you want to have said without the extreme rush of feelings. People who are professional in this can actually absolutely correct me if I'm confusing some parts here, but that is the process that has been explained to me. you don't actually send these letters because they're for you. It doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter. You don't have to say anything to them. The best thing to do is, I accept your decision. Here are my thoughts. If you are still like, can we discuss it? No. Okay, I respect that. And then don't talk to them. If this is someone you've been in a relationship with for 20, 25, 30 years and you end up splitting up, yeah, you probably end up being friends afterwards anyway because your lives are so enmeshed, but and your friend groups and everything, and it's probably easier to make that transition for you. But someone who has only been in a relationship for 3 years, I don't see the need for you to still remain friends. So it's better to just cut it. Whatever you're going through, you deal with it yourself. Don't contact him. Like, let him go. All right, we are at the final video, which is the 5-month post-breakup update.
5 months post breakup, and I'm doing better. Just kidding, it's actually 5 months and 2 days. So 5 months ago today was actually the last time I saw him. I asked him to kiss me after he broke up with me because I was just trying to get through to him, connect something, and he said no. But when I was leaving and about to get in the car, I said, please kiss me, and he did. Sad. But this month has been better. I think before now, the idea of the idea of moving out of my mom's place and back somewhere else felt necessary towards completely moving on, and I still think it is to get to like the 100% level. But now that I'm more healed, I actually feel more relaxed in the idea of staying here a bit longer, having a bit more financial freedom to spend more money getting these songs out and investing in my career and stuff. That said, I still know that anger, thoughts of him are going to persist until I have crush thoughts about someone else. And probably after then too, but it won't be as torturous. The day my stuff got packed up was really hard. I was faced with saying the last words I ever would to him via text. I felt like I should say, I wish you well, but I don't wish him well. But I don't wish him pain and suffering forever either. I just wish him enough pain and suffering that he would realize what he did. And do something to make me not hate him, because I don't like hating him, but I do. I am healed. I do not have gaping open wounds, but that is an ugly motherfucking scar that I will wear forever. If you're going through it right now, this day will come. You just have to keep on doing whatever it is you have to do. Don't take anyone's advice if you don't want to. Just make it to tomorrow, and then eventually you'll make it here. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to mute that. She is a very talented musician, so I highly recommend actually checking her out. She has a great voice. She seems very fun. But yeah, she I can see a lot of the behaviors I myself tend to have when I'm going through a very emotional time of like, yeah, making fun of it. Haha, I'm healed. I will feel like I want to hate him until I start dating again. Like, no. To me, it feels very tongue-in-cheek, being very aware that that's not how things gonna work. Healing is healing, and you are, as people, there's no such thing as, I am healed. That is, healing is a process and it's a journey through life because we all carry hurt and damage and pain. So there's no person in the world that is healed because it's a concept of perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. You can only keep progressing and trying to do better. That's what you can do in order to further yourself and your life. But being perfect or being healed is not a state humans exist in. And that's okay. And I hope that that might bring some comfort to you, because we're all just doing our best and we're trying so hard to be better and everything. But sometimes, life just fucking sucks. And that's okay. And let it suck for a bit. Just sometimes what I do is just, okay, I give myself a timeline. I get to be sad and angry for an hour, for a day, for a week, whatever. And then when that hits, it's just like, okay, time to be done, time to do something about it, and time to move forward. And it helps mentally a little bit to give myself the allowance, the space to just crash and burn and cry or be angry for like a day, and then letting that go. And then I can move forward in a much more healthy way rather than trying to struggle past all of these feelings. I do hope that this woman recovers from everything that she gone through, and it seems like she has the support system to do so. and that she is moving forward. And thankfully, she seems to be reinvesting and recovering the loss to her career. Never, ever give up your career or your livelihood for anyone other than yourself, unless that is a choice you make because you want to do it. And it is very easy for me to sit here and say that because, like, hey, if my partner was like, hey, let's move to the US, and I'm like, hey, I've been with you for almost a decade, but I don't want to go to the US, then we would have to have that conversation. Ultimately, either I choose to uproot my entire life and my career and everything here and move to the US with him, or we figure out something else, or he drops the US thing and we stay here. Whatever it is, it has to be a conversation, but ultimately the decision has to be yours. And personally, I think giving up your career in this manner is very dangerous. I might be leaning a bit too much to the security side, but for me, I would never give up my career or my, like, whatever I got going on without having secured it in wherever I'm going. Because the world we live in is so volatile already in every sense of the word that just giving up and just moving on a dime is putting yourself up for failure and heartache in this case. And I feel like that is an unnecessary damage to exact on yourself. Be very careful when it comes to your livelihood, your safety, and your happiness, because ultimately, just moving or doing something because your partner or someone else would feel good for about it without you also feeling good about it, it's only going to hurt you. If you're doing something just to make your partner feel good or someone else feel good, but you yourself haven't even asked yourself, hey, would doing this for someone else make me feel good? Or would doing this for me make me feel good? Because if you don't ask yourself that, or if your answer is no, then you are most likely giving of yourself something that you would take damage from. Be careful, be mindful, but be open and empathetic, because conversations and communication is the key to success in any part of your life. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a communicator by profession, but it truly is the way we understand each other better. And we are, as a species, very kind. We are a community. We thrive in groups, in community. As a species, humans are very community driven tribes, everything. We thrive when we have people around us that show us love and empathy, that we also then extend love and empathy towards. So while you need to be careful and conscious of yourself and protect yourself, don't let that fall into apathy, because you are going to take just as much damage as the people you are showing apathy towards. Going a little bit deep there at the end, but I'm going to leave it here. If you like this type of content, make sure to hit subscribe. Otherwise, I hope that you have a good day, night, wherever you are in the time stream, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!